I finally discovered why my boyfriend refuses to hold my toddler niece, and now everything makes so much sense, but it's left me feeling completely conflicted. I, 27F, have been with my boyfriend, 28 J, for 5 years. We've both been very close with each other's families, and we've even talked about marriage. However, one touchy subject is children. Whenever we discuss it, he gets kinda standoffish. He doesn't really dismiss the idea though, it's just that he doesn't seem invested. I've always wanted kids, and he just always says he's fine with whatever makes me happy. Ever since, I've been content with this situation. However, things escalated during this holiday season. Our setup has always been that Jay spends Christmas Eve and dinner with my family. Then I spend Christmas Day with his family. This was the first Christmas I'll spend with my first and only niece, 2F, Anna. She spent her first Christmas in the hospital due to her health condition, but she's okay now, so I made sure to spend a lot of time with her. We played a lot, we opened gifts together, and I even reenacted Anna's favorite storybook using her favorite doll. We even had matching outfits. My sister, 30F, Amy, thanked me for giving her and her husband some relief from childcare the entire day. However, Amy also said she noticed that Jay, who was just either sitting on the couch watching me or helping my mom with the dishes, was kinda distant with Anna. I told her I've also noticed that before, and I just chalked it up to maybe Jay was hesitant and awkward to play with Anna because he feels he's just my boyfriend. Then Amy said she won't mind since she and her husband already treat Jay as part of our family. I then went back to Jay and encouraged him to play with Anna and help us set up her new dollhouse. But he said he's not feeling too well. So he ended up drinking a few more beers and stayed on the porch by himself, scrolling on his phone. I didn't press harder and thought he might really just be feeling under the weather. I just want to add for context that Jay isn't an alcoholic. He's a sweet, wonderful, funny man who's sometimes broody and deep in thought, but he's never obsessive, manipulative, or moody, and he only drinks on special occasions. The next day, on Christmas Day, we had lunch with Jay's family. Afterward, I volunteered for cleanup to help Jay's mom, 62F, Mary, and brother, 31M, John. Jay's family was the best any significant other could ever ask for. They're very sweet and supportive of us, but they're never prying. They always check up on us, but they never overstep. So, as we were cleaning up, Mary asked me how my sister's baby was. They helped with the bills when Anna was hospitalized last year. I told them that Anna's in great condition now, and that she already spent the Christmas at home. They were very delighted upon hearing this. Then, I shared with them the thing I noticed about Jay. Initially, I thought maybe Mary could just give me advice on how to approach the issue with Jay since he's clearly not the playing with kids kind of guy. But then John casually said something like, "Oh, because of Rosie." So then Mary quickly shushed him. Rosie was the daughter of Jay and John's eldest sister, Beth, 35F. I never knew the actual details because everyone was very secretive about it. But all I knew was that Rosie passed away when she was just 3 years old and Beth and her husband moved away afterward. I never met them in person. So, later that night, when Mary, John, and the other family members got a bit more Dr. Nank and Jay was already sleeping in the bedroom, they told me the story. I didn't force them or anything. Apparently Jay, being the youngest of the siblings, was really close with Rosie back then. Jay was just around 14 years old when Rosie was born, so he became the super fun uncle, like I am now with Anna. He was actually Rosie's best friend. Then on summer of 2012, Jay was playing with Rosie outside. He was blowing bubbles, and she was chasing and popping them, when a speeding car driven by a woman who was distracted on her phone skidded into the yard toward Rosie's direction. Jay reacted quickly and was able to reach and grab Rosie, so the car actually hit him. But the impact of the crash caused Rosie's head to whiplash as Jay hugged her. Jay was in a coma for 3 days and had multiple severe injuries and internal bleeding, but Rosie didn't make it. Everything was caught by the neighbor's skekfo. Everyone knew that Jay was a hero for trying to protect Rosie. It was even covered by the local news. But Beth, who was understandably in grief, resented Jay for not being able to save her daughter. Beth and her husband then decided to move to another country to cope with their grief and start a new life. And they've had minimal contact with the family ever since. Jay, meanwhile, took the loss really hard. He blamed himself for not being able to save Rosie and not being able to attend her funeral since he was still at the hospital at that time. Mary said that Jay was never the same after that. He never went near kids, and he became a lot colder, quieter, more reserved, and antisocial. So he also had anger issues, but it thankfully went away. I haven't had any issues with this. We also live in an area where people don't believe in therapy, so Jay never received professional help. After learning all of this, I bawled my eyes out because I never knew Jay was carrying such a heavy burden. So the whole incident became a taboo family secret that no one mentions in fear of Jay breaking down or doing something he might regret, although to be fair, he's never had violent or self-harm tendencies ever since. So this was just a precaution. So they also never told me before because they assumed Jay would be the one to tell me. But I told them that he never did. and that I never really asked him. I then thanked everyone for letting me in on this, and I told them that I'd talk to Jay about it when the time is right. They understood, and they said I could just ring them up if I need help or support in any way. For now, I just want Jay to enjoy the holidays and his remaining vacation days from work. Now, I don't really know how to start with him. I know seeking professional help to process all the trauma and grief, even if it's been over a decade ago, would be the top priority, but I don't know how to bring it up to him. I don't even know when is the right time to bring it up. I just want him to know that I love him no matter what, and that I'll support him in every step toward his healing, especially if we're to form a family of our own.
Next story. Am I wrong for leaving my girlfriend homeless after discovering she cheated on me, even though the house is in my name and her friends are calling me heartless? A few months ago, I realized that my girlfriend, with whom I had been for 3 years, was cheating on me with a coworker. The hardest part was catching her in our bed, in the house I had bought and that we shared together. I confronted her, and although she initially denied it, she eventually confessed between sobs. She told me she didn't want to hurt me, and said she started seeing someone else because she felt something was missing in our relationship. There was nothing missing, and what hurt me the most was that I always tried to give her everything I could. In the end, her betrayal and selfishness were to blame. That's where the revenge comes in. She had moved in with me shortly after I bought the house. I had always insisted on the importance of setting up a prenuptial agreement or some kind of legal arrangement to protect our finances in case of separation. But she refused time and time again. She claimed that love didn't need contracts, and like a fool, I trusted her words. But what she didn't know was that I always kept the house in my name and made sure all the legal documents were in order. After finding out about her infidelity, I went straight to a lawyer. I changed the locks while she was at work and handed her a signed letter notifying her that she had 24 hours to remove her belongings from the house or they'd be thrown out. When she came home that night, she couldn't believe what was happening. She screamed, cried, and begged me to give her more time or let her stay a few more months. She told me she had nowhere to go. I didn't care. I explained to her that, legally, she had no rights to the house, and that, since we were no longer together, she had no reason to stay. Plus, I knew that her new boyfriend lived in a small apartment and didn't have the means to take her in right away. Everything fell apart for her. The most ironic part of all was that her new relationship lasted less than a month after she moved in with him. I guess he realized what she was capable of too. Meanwhile, I've continued on with my life, in my house, more at peace than ever. They say revenge is sweet, but what really made me feel better was regaining control of my life and not letting someone walk all over me. Is it cruel? Maybe. Did she deserve it? Without a doubt.